The documentary is basically about how the Chinese culture has evolved throughout the years since the first Chinese immigrants arrived in Mauritius. It all started when the Chinese migrants arrived on the island around the 18th century. The Mauritians of Chinese origin, also known as the Sino-Mauritians, are people who trace their ethnic ancestry from China. The Sino-Mauritians form about 3% of the local population. The Chinese culture has evolved enormously since the first migrants put their foot on the island. The Chinese culture had a great influence on the development of Mauritius, especially in its economy. In the 1780s, thousands of voluntary Chinese migrants came to Puri from Guangzhou on board British, French, and Danish ships. They found employment such as blacksmiths, carpenters, cobblers, and tailors. The earliest migrants were largely Cantonese speaking, but later on the Hakka speakers from Maysan came to dominate numerically. By the 1860s, shops run by the Sino-Mauritians could be found over the island. In the 1940s, Chinese immigrants arrived in Mauritius to open trade businesses. They settled around Royal Road in Police, and the Mauritian Chinatown was born. Streets are dotted with worker pagodas, and Mandarin is actively taught at the Chinese Winter School. The cultural heritage left by the first Sino-Mauritians, for example Chinese cuisine, is still practiced by the Sino-Mauritians nowadays, and also by people of other communities. Before, there were more people and there was more nightlife in Chinatown. There was more nightlife because people went to gambling places like casinos, but nowadays the gambling places are shut down. The Chinese population has decreased in the island nowadays because they have immigrated to overseas, for example in Canada, Australia, and England. All the information found in the documentary are all true, and they also come from reliable resources. But however, due to confidentiality issues, the interviewee's identity will remain anonymous. I had an interview with the first Chinese immigrant. He came to Mauritius since March in 1947. He first worked in a small shop called La Boutique Britannia in the countryside, and after several years he built up and worked in his own shop situated in Chinatown. So I asked him what has changed in Chinese culture since he arrived in Mauritius until now. He said that in the business side, before 90% of the shops situated in the countryside were owned and managed by the Chinese. But nowadays all the shops that are run by the Chinese, also known as La Boutique Chinois, have all disappeared. In the city before, 75% of the shops were managed by the Chinese, but nowadays only 25% of them are run by the Sino-Mauritians. The Chinese people who migrated to Mauritius were all uneducated, and they all work in small shops. Most of the Chinese nowadays are educated and have successful jobs. Some are accountants, engineers, doctors. The young generation does not know how to speak Chinese language such as Hakka nowadays because now they are more Western, meaning that they only know English, French, and Creole. When he arrived in Mauritius, the Chinese immigrants in Mauritius knew Hakka and a little bit of Creole because most of the Chinese immigrants were Hakka speakers. More buildings have been built nowadays, especially the Chinese restaurants. When the number of Chinese restaurants increases, more people in Mauritius know about the Chinese foods like fried noodles, fried rice, nuoc yen. The Chinese immigrant also said that before the population of Chinese people was only 8,000. China Cultural Center was built in the year 1988. The center offered courses such as Mandarin courses, dance courses, and martial arts all the year round. The China Cultural Center has organized courses, performances, exhibitions, and cultural festivals to introduce the Chinese culture and arts to the people in Mauritius. The China Cultural Center started giving Mandarin courses and started organizing exhibitions in 2010. The center also started organizing the calligraphy courses in 2014. Latest exhibition that the China Cultural Center has organized was the Chinese Painting Exhibition. The China Cultural Center organized a workshop and an exhibition of Chinese paintings to let the Mercian people from other religions and Sino-Mercians to know and understand the Chinese paintings. The workshop took place from the 15th September to the 18th October 2014. The exhibition took place on the 18th October. Nowadays, Chinese people and people of other communities learn Mandarin because they will need the Mandarin for business purposes. Now China is very powerful and they are high-profiled. This makes the Chinese culture more important in Mauritius and also in the world. The China Cultural Center and the Heritage Court offer Mandarin courses for people of all communities. Two Chinese middle schools were established in the first half of the 20th century and are still open nowadays. These two schools are the Chinese Middle School and the Zhonghua Middle School. These two schools are still open nowadays because they wanted to teach the Mauritians Mandarin. Nowadays, many people are interested to learn the martial arts, such as Tai Chi and Wing Chun. The young people are interested to learn Wing Chun nowadays. Therefore, they will go to China Cultural Center to learn Kung Fu. Chinese people and people from other communities also go to learn Tai Chi, an internal Chinese martial art for its defense training and for its health benefits. Many Chinese martial arts teachers and professionals come to Mauritius to teach the people Tai Chi and Kung Fu at the China Cultural Center and Heritage Court. In 2000, the Chinatown Monument was built, and it was built from a Chinese governor from China. Heritage Court, also known as the Namsun Society Building, was built in 2004. It was built by the Namsun Associate. Since the Heritage Court was built, many Chinese restaurants settled in the Heritage Court, such as the Panda Restaurant, and also many Chinese culture activities took place. For example, Kung Fu courses. The annual Chinatown and Food and Cultural Festival was first organized in 2004, and the annual event is still organized as it is appreciated by the Mauritians of all ethnic groups. The event celebrates the Chinese culture and provides an opportunity for people of other religions and tourists to discover more about the Chinese culture. And this area of Poli that has been the home to Chinese community ever since the first Chinese immigrants landed on our island. The Chinatown has local performers of traditional music, dancers, martial arts, dragon and lion dance shows. The other activities include demonstration of calligraphy, paper cutting, and explanation of Chinese astrology. Over 20 food stalls have been set up at various locations in Chinatown for visitors to taste the typical Chinese food. Restaurants and shops have been asked to extend their opening hours. The Chinese Heritage Center is a small Chinese museum that was launched in the Phodiak Pagoda on the 6th February 2008. The Phodiak Pagoda is one of the 12 pagodas still standing in Poli. The museum traces the history of Chinese immigrants, mostly hailing from the Hakkas. The museum is meant to benefit not only the Sino-Mauritians but also the people of other communities. The Sino-Mauritians and other Mauritians will be able to discover the museum and learn information about the history of Chinese immigrants. The Chinese migrants came in the island in the 19th century. They are largely credited for the making of rice, the staple and main diet of the island, and also making noodles. Before, there were only few Chinese restaurants and they were only situated in Chinatown. Only the Chinese people went to Chinese restaurants, but nowadays Chinese and other Asian restaurants are present all around the island. The Chinese restaurants has influenced the Mauritian culture, and people of all backgrounds consume the Chinese food. Fried noodles, fried rice, and spring rolls are the most popular dishes. Nowadays, Mauritians from all ethnic origin also enjoy the various vegetable and meat balls, for example, Nhut Nhien Sao Mai, origin from the Hakka cuisine. Chinese Spring Festival, also known as Chinese New Year, is celebrated in January or February. Although the Mauritian Chinese community is small, it has a great influence on the life of Mauritius, and people of all backgrounds celebrate the Chinese Spring Festival. The main celebration takes place in Chinatown. There are the lion and dragon dances, which are watched by families and visitors from people across the island. The streets are decorated with red lanterns, and there are stalls of Chinese foods on the streets. Wax cakes are made and sold on the streets on the eve of Chinese New Year. So Chinese people go to pray and give offerings to Chinese god in pagoda on the eve of Chinese New Year. The Chinese people go to hotels for Chinese New Year. Nowadays, many hotels celebrate the Chinese New Year in style. At night, the hotel organizes the Chinese buffet for their clients, and the hotel also provides lion and dragon performances. When the clock strikes at midnight, the hotel lights up the colorful firecrackers, which are watched by visitors. Nowadays, people of all communities use traditional Chinese medicine to cure their illness, as they are aware of the effectiveness of the Chinese medicine. The traditional Chinese medicine includes the herbal medicine, acupuncture, and massage. More people nowadays know and use the herbal medicines because they do not have chemicals and are as effective as other Western medicines. They can find the herbal medicines in Chinese pharmacies in Chinatown. People also go to Chinese doctors for acupuncture. Acupuncture is a traditional Chinese practice which involves needles insertion. Acupuncture is effective as it is a treatment for headaches, back pains, and nausea.